the
Notre Dame Design Forum, or Notre Dame Project. Okay, we need to discuss that and whether we are going to endorse it.
So if I might,
Yeah, brief presentation.
brief presentation, very brief. So Catherine wasn't available to do this, or she would be here herself, summer vacations. She's not an official representative from the planning board to the Notre Dame Design Group, but she has done it as a kind of an active resident of Northampton. So she's kept us all informed. All of us have had a variety of informational emails, and we've heard a lot about what's going on. Basically, Catherine asked me if I wouldn't approach and lead a little bit of discussion about the design week and the process to see if we as a group can come to some kind of agreement around supporting / endorsing the design week as it's proposed at this point. And certainly the big thing, a couple of big things is that we're kind of supporting the process and not any recommendations or not any policy changes or not any opening up of the sustainability plan. The group, and there's a couple of members in the audience who I think are representing the group who, if we want to, I'm sure would be glad to add in their 2 cents. Both of them aren't wallflowers. They're asking for our support. Really, a big part of it would be an assist in the fundraising, and that there's a perception perhaps in the community, some members of the community, that the planning board is not in favor of the design week. And so people who may want to contribute money don't want to get caught in the middle of any kind of political snafu.
Right.
So they would feel much better about contributing to the process financially if they knew that, all the city boards were somewhat on board with the process. So, in terms of that, I talked to Wayne a little bit, and we developed some draft language that we might look at some point that talks about our planning board's support of the process. We've been invited to participate. Some of us may, it's not mandatory. They certainly want our participation because all of us through sitting here on the board have a lot of expertise and experience when it comes to the city land use. We also are pretty well invested and knowledge about the sustainability plan, and a lot of this work we hope will be illustrative of certain areas of the sustainability plan. So I will participate. I mean, certainly as George Cohen from Leeds, to some degree, and also with my planning board hat. So that's just my little pitch. I'm hoping that we can lead the meeting in the next, 15 minutes, God willing, so we can get out of here with some kind of official support of the process.
Okay.
The way I understood it, or my feeling when we discussed it before, and the hesitancy to support the process was that the sustainability plan was not going to be recognized. That was an impression that was given. I thought we were told that. And now it seems that that's not the case. That we're being told by Catherine through Notre Dame that sustainability plan very much will be incorporated into what they're doing. If that's the case, it would seem that we could support the process, because that seemed to be the tipping point.
I think even, despite what may have changed or from the point that it was originally provided to you all to now, I think, it helps probably to have a conversation about design in whatever context. So if you look at it in that sort of frame, that there are a lot of people who don't understand the relationship of design to development and to change, and that it is an important feature. And I think that either way, whether or not it's a city-sponsored event or some other event that helps continue the conversation, I think could be beneficial. whether or not the city had officially invited them. So, in that context, I don't know if that helps you sort of think about it, but, we had the discussion earlier tonight about design and infill. And, sometimes it's hard for people to wrap their brains around an infill project. Let's just take, for example, tonight's project in their neighborhood. And it might have a completely different reception if there were some, aspect of if we had something more quantitative to sort of talk about that or present. So, that's just one example, but I think from staff perspective, it makes sense that if there is an opportunity to, create an experience or support an experience that keeps the public conversation going about it, it makes sense. And that, it's not part of the sustainability, implementation, so there wouldn't be necessarily any direct link to what would happen with the implementation of sustainability.
I don't have any problem supporting it. I had some of the same recollections that you had, Mark, about sustainability, but I sort of, if it's a citizen-supported event and we can participate that and support it, I think I don't have any problem with that, and I will participate when I can.
Okay, Stephen?
I didn't mind as Stephen Gilson of Pomeroy Terrace endorsing it because I think it's an interesting idea. The reason I still have doubts about the planning board, because I think what I was sent by Catherine and what I've seen in other mailings was this will illustrate the sustainability plan, or this will help define to make it easier for people to understand the sustainability plan. And as Mark and Professor Best said when he stood here, he said, we don't really care about the sustainability plan, and that's not our goal. Our goal is to have 7 grad students come in, look at your town, write up some cool stuff, or 5,
Right.
and leave. So I think in some ways, I'm still concerned that when I see things saying we're going to illustrate the sustainability plan, they're going to get here, and that's not what they're going to do. So that's why
That's pretty much the way I feel about it. You can hear from me.
yeah, so that's my biggest concern is making sure that we're very clear. And I thought Professor Best was very clear when he stood here.
Yeah, he was.
And
Yes, he was.
Another thing was whether we, in addition to whether it addressed the sustainability plan, was whether or not it would be a wise thing for the city to contribute to, or whether it advanced what we were working on, and the feeling was that it didn't. The third thing that bothered me about it was the fact that it was sort of oversold and that public expectations were very high. For instance, one person suggested that it would help stop the horrible hotel project. I had the feeling that I was sort of talking to a life insurance salesman, and it has been oversold. But I do have some suggested, I have no objection to endorsing it as a public project, but I do have some suggested language for what I would agree to. Anybody? Ken, you haven't spoken on this.
Well, I think we should always support any effort that's made in the city to discuss the planning issue. It helps our efforts here. I think that the word endorse is the wrong one. It's, support, I don't know exactly what it should say. Support an effort rather than, if we endorse this process, I think, are tied to the outcome. And I don't want to be tied to the outcome. We get enough stuff thrown in our face here when we're going through these hearing processes that we don't need more of it, I don't think. We wrote a response to a proposal that was given to us, and we got a response back in writing. And the addressing that, a written proposal. And we haven't had any change to that written proposal, so I think that our answer to that should stand, and should be separate from whatever it is we're gonna do here tonight. So that's why I would say that the language should be something other than, excuse me, an endorsement. That's my opinion.
Yet another thing was about how much money it cost, and we did explore some alternatives, and for $20,000, we could have gotten something that did address our needs through, for instance, the Cecil Group.
I think when I first spoke up about it too, I mean, originally, I think many of us were in favor of it from what we first heard. Then after the meeting and we had our discussion, you know, we did vote not to continue with it and pursue the Notre Dame group. Part of that was if it was gonna be a city effort, it would be city dollars, and it would be the staff time of Carolyn and Wayne around all the logistics. And that was one reason that I didn't wanna go forward with it. It would have been on their shoulders. Now we have a citizens group who's coming forward, who's doing all the logistics by and large, all the support and raising the money for it. So it may not meet planning board needs entirely, but still, as Carolyn said, it's gonna serve as a process for a lot of people to get educated about design and about participation without any extra work on the planning staff or the planning board. So that, you know, again, is a help. And, you know, there's a balance there too. You know, I hear what you're saying, Ken, about being tied to it. I mean, we always have people come up to us saying, Vision 2020, you said this and you're not doing it, or in the sustainability plan, you said this and now you're not doing it. And we'll hear this too. Notre Dame said this and you're supposed to do it. That may or may not be realized, you know.
But I think we should also not lose sight of the fact that this is an academic exercise. And that's first and foremost what they're trying to achieve here. And we should be cautious about this expectation that there'll be this great learning process. They're gonna be here for a week, and then going back to their campus. And there'll be some very limited contact with some few members from this community going there. But this education process is not going to be as, you know, as widespread maybe as we would like, or as we would hope.
Yep. And if the expectations aren't met, then it's gonna really rest upon that committee that's really supporting that and bringing them here and encouraging them. They'll have to respond to that, you know.
Right, I think it's, if we're gonna support something, we support this process, this creative process, but not the plan that comes out of the process. Because then we don't wanna be beholden to somebody saying, it says here, you know, you're supposed to do A, B, and C, and you're not doing it. But I'm in favor of it individually. But as a, you know, for the planning board, that was my only hesitancy, is that what you spoke of, George, just getting behind something that brings with it an expectation. And I think, you know, either nothing will come out of it or something good will come out of it. And even if something good isn't concrete, it's just creative discussions, then that's good.
What's your proposed language?
Do we want to hear from Joel Russell?
I think so, if they want to address what Stephen and Mark brought up about, you know, where the Notre Dame group feels around how the sustainability plan kind of will impact on the work of the students. I think that was the question, right?
Yeah,
That was one of them,
you know, the difference between what they said to us and what they emailed us, and now what we're hearing from Catherine about what they're saying.
Let me just, quickly, first of all, you were really right about one thing. George is absolutely right. This was a lot of work, and Bob and I have done most of it, so you guys haven't had to do it. But on the sustainability plan, I think a couple of things led to a misunderstanding. First of all, I think that Philip Best, I don't think he did try to oversell the project. I mean, he said it was an academic exercise. He said, you know, we're not here to make policy for the city of Northampton. We're here as this exercise. I think that when he can't remember, he was here for a day, and he didn't really know anything about Northampton before that. He wasn't familiar with the sustainability plan, and he said, we're going to come here and listen to what people say. If people are talking about the sustainability plan, then we're going to deal with it. In the meantime, I've had further conversations with him. In fact, I talked to one of the students today. He said, I've got the sustainability plan on my desk now. You know, we're reviewing it, we're reading it, we're taking it seriously. It's obviously a major piece of input to what we do. So I think, you know, after we discussed it and they realized that this wasn't a very important planning document here, they're going to take it into consideration. You know, as to what you do with the product, you know, you're free to do absolutely nothing with it, or whatever you find useful in it, to take it and use it whatever way you see fit. And the same with the rest of the community. So it's really just being offered as something that may be helpful, hopefully will be. And you know, in the spirit of what Carolyn said, that it's just making people more aware of these issues, the design issues, regardless of whatever else happens with it.
No, I certainly wasn't accusing Bess of overselling the project with other people.
Just me.
Local people. Well, three people in particular, only two of them are here. But I think on the basis of... Okay, I'll give you my statement now.
Okay.
The planning board voted to support the Northampton Design Week / University of Notre Dame project. This studio, I don't know if that's the right name for it, is an opportunity to raise public awareness about the importance of urban design and to help get the public, stakeholders, and decision makers to enter into conversation about design. Given that this project is first and foremost a University of Notre Dame student studio, we fully understand its primary purpose is to educate the students and not to educate our own community. We understand that this is not a report commissioned to help in future decision-making or to set policy or to illustrate the sustainability plan. Still, any public discussion about urban design is helpful. I mean, that comes short of an enthusiastic endorsement, but I think it supports the project without...
You're very eloquent, Randy.
Well, I based the language on Wayne's statement, but I took out all the greats and wonderfuls and stuff.
Do you folks want to see a copy of that so you get this thrust of it, or you have the spirit of it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly any suggestions. I mean, Ken's suggestion about using the word support, I think is a good one.
Yeah.
But the potential for an opportunity, I decided was repetitious, so I didn't use that. Any, okay.
If I may, the second half of the statement says all the things it's not. I don't think you need them.
Well, I felt it was important because of when we had the public hearing of what the public seemed to expect from it.
I understand why you think they should be there. I happen to disagree.
And I'm not sure I understand which is the second half of the statement. Bob.
We're saying that, well, I'll repeat
It's
it.
first and foremost an academic exercise, and from there on.
Its primary purpose is to educate the students and not to educate our own community.
Yes, from there on.
That's the primary purpose, I think. We understand that this is not a report commissioned to help in future decision-making or to set policy or to illustrate the sustainability plan. Still, any public discussion about urban design is helpful. Well, I don't think it is something to illustrate the sustainability plan, and I'll stand by that.
That's what he said,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I didn't know that before this.
that was Catherine's idea, and, you know, I don't buy it.
I agree. They're not gonna take a 100-page document and add pretty pictures to it. They're coming here to talk to people and come up with some designs.
I mean, I think it's a great idea, but again, I think a lot of people don't understand what academic exercise is a teaching tool. It's a pedantic device.
Right, and if somebody was gonna illustrate the sustainability document, that would mean they're gonna take it and they're gonna try to, based on exactly what's in there, come up with with some designs, some ideas, and it's a huge document.
Yeah.
And
But the sustainability plan is really our version of what smart growth principles are in Northampton, urban design, all of those things we talk about all the
Energy
time.
efficiency,
Energy
so, yeah.
efficiency, it's all of those things, and these students are coming with all of that behind them. We call it a sustainability plan, but they're really illustrating these principles, which Northampton has chosen to call the sustainability plan.
Oh,
So, they are gonna illustrate sustainability principles,
Yeah.
which are embodied in our plan, so,
Well, maybe.
I agree that their plans are gonna use what's in the sustainability plan, but they're not gonna illustrate the plan.
Yeah.
right.
They're gonna incorporate the plan in their designs.
The
which is
plan
one
was
thing.
too complicated for Catherine. And she wanted a simplified version and an illustrated version.
Cliff notes.
She has.
You don't, I think you guys are personalizing this. We're illustrating
I
the
wish I brought
principles.
the letter I got that said,
Well-
we'll illustrate the sustainability plan, and the email I got that said that, and that's not what they're gonna do.
Okay, but that's one person's take on it. This woman who has a lot of energy and has only been on the planning board for a while. It's not the community as a whole. The community as a whole wants to participate in this process because they're engaged in this sustainability process that we've been going through for a couple of years, and they want some help from other people to see what does that look like. I agree that it's
I
not
agree
going to
with you.
illustrate.
Right, I
what-
think
we
everybody's
all
in
agree
favor
with
of what
that.
you just said.
We're all agree on that.
So,
Can you say that?
We're all agreeing.
It's a positive statement?
That they will incorporate the sustainability plan into their design, but what we keep getting is, they're gonna illustrate the sustainability plan.
No, can I just try to set the record straight on that? I mean, that was said in response to the concern that they were gonna ignore the sustainability plan. So what we said in response was, they will pay attention to the sustainability plan. They will not illustrate the sustainability plan as written, but they will illustrate, as George said, the principles that underlie the sustainability plan.
We don't,
And
we don't argue with that. They can do that.
well, then there's nothing to argue. If we just say you support what it is that we all agree they're gonna do, then isn't that the end of the discussion?
I mean, I like the way Franny said it. I don't have a problem with the way you worded it.
Yeah, I don't mind. Do you want some
Yeah,
changes
I
to
don't
that?
well,
Why
yeah,
don't
if we could read that thing again, I think it just does come out a little bit negatively.
Do you have a copy of this?
Yeah, I do, and it's a little bit different than the copy that I have.
Yeah, I know.
This is certainly modified from,
Yeah.
I mean, I can,
But
No,
let's start looking at editing this. What do you object to?
Well, let's hear Fran, I think the part about where he specifies something about the sustainability thing.
oh, I'm gonna read you the whole thing.
Yep.
Okay. The planning board voted to support the Northampton Design with the University of Notre Dame project. This student studio is an opportunity to raise public awareness about the importance of urban design and to help get the public, stakeholders, and decision makers to enter into conversation about design. Given that this project is first and foremost a student studio, we fully understand its primary purpose is to educate the students and not to educate our own community. We understand that this is not a report commissioned to help in future decision-making or to set policy or to illustrate the sustainability plan. Still, any public discussion about urban design is helpful. It's a little negative.
So Joel didn't like the issue of the primary purpose is to educate the Notre Dame.
I think the first two sentences are fine, the very last sentence is fine, and the stuff that comes in between seems unnecessary and kind of casts a shadow over what is essentially a positive statement on attendance. And frankly, just like you don't want to box yourself into having to follow it, I think if you say, this is not going to illustrate the sustainability plan, what if it turns out that it actually does? Then, people say, hey, this is a good picture of some aspect of sustainability. I mean, do you want to have to hold yourself to having said that it couldn't illustrate it?
Well,
I think what it says here is that it doesn't, it's
not a
purpose is
report
not to-
commissioned to
Fair enough, but why do you have to say what it isn't? Why don't you just say what it is?
We don't know what it is.
Well, yeah, we say kind of upfront, that really it's a process to get people engaged in a community conversation about design. That's what it is, and about design that's reflected in the principles of sustainability.
Well, how about if we say, its primary purpose is to educate the students and not necessarily to educate our own community. We can put the word necessarily in there to make it less,
That softens it up a little bit.
softens it up a little.
Why can't you just stop after the second sentence? I mean, don't really
I spent a lot of time on this.
send a clear message.
I think it's important that we say that it's not a report commissioning to help in future decision-making, set policy,
I think it is too.
because we don't want that.
We have to frame the expectation.
Eliminate.
Yeah.
One thing we haven't mentioned is that after spending 2 years on the sustainability plan, we're not all that excited about opening up the whole thing all over again. Ideas are fine, it's, again, I think it's important that we make sure that the public understand what our position is. And this is the way we feel about it, and I think the majority of the board feels that way. I mean, I'm only one vote.
Well,
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody wants to open up the sustainability plan again, even though the premise of it is that it's a working document and every
Yeah.
year or so it's gonna be
Oh, yeah, we can
remodified.
change it, sure.
Right, so,
Yeah.
we don't wanna go through all those same conversations again that we've held. But you can't deny that some of the work that's gonna happen is going to use the sustainability plan as a springboard. And people are gonna have that in the back of their mind when they go to these sessions and when they talk to the students. They'll be talking about infill, they'll be talking about, LEED certified buildings, they'll be talking about all of the energy things that we're using.
It's a little hard to unring the bell from what Des told us at that meeting. He said it, and I believe it.
Yeah, I see you're struggling with that, unring that bell and unring Catherine's bell.
Well, not
so-
only told us at the meeting, but followed it up with our letter. Strong
Yeah.
letter.
Put it in writing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, let's see, I don't wanna polarize us, we have to find
Right,
some middle
right.
ground.
It's
We all-
part of the system, it's just.
Right, yeah.
what Ken said about it's not a report commissioned by the planning board as a decision-making policy, I mean, I think we can all, that's cool, that's okay, I mean,
Yeah.
because it's not, and you want your endorsement to make it sound like you've commissioned it, because you haven't, and that's factual, I mean, but the rest of it seems to me is kind of gratuitous.
It's that one sentence, given that this project is first and foremost a University of Notre Dame studio, we fully understand its primary purpose is to educate the Notre Dame students and not to educate our own community. You'd like to see that out of there.
Yeah,
Or get rid of from the and not, I could live without.
Yeah.
We're saying
Say it's
primarily
primary
to educate.
purpose.
We put necessarily in there.
Yeah.
And not to.
I want to go hear Barack Obama.
We
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
fully understand its primary purpose is to educate the Notre Dame students, period.
Joel, all politics is local.
Pardon?
Yeah, right.
And then you jump to, we understand that this is not a commission report, and then you could
Make it-
leave it at there, and then say, we encourage any
Then it
public
doesn't
discussion
make any
about urban
sense.
design.
We understand the primary purpose is to educate the students. We understand that this is not a report commission to help with future decision making or set policy. Still, any public discussion about urban design is helpful. So we just got rid of that one clause.
Well, you left out or illustrates the sustainability.
I know, it's still.
Oh, did I miss that part?
Right.
So, do we,
Cut out on not to educate our own community.
Right.
That's too
Yes.
negative.
Clause.
Right,
Okay.
and then so we understand that
This is
this
not a
is not a
report.
report commissioned to help.
I think that should
I
be
would say, we understand this is not a commissioned report.
a report commission to help. We understand that this is not a report commission to help in future decision making, comma, to set policy, comma, or to illustrate the sustainability plan, period.
How about our support of this process, does not mean support of any recommendations or product of
Their results.
the results in the process, something like that, instead of,
Yeah.
you know, we're supporting the process, we're not tying ourselves to any support of the product or the results of the process.
All right, so get it.
How do you say that?
One sentence, yours, go.
Our support of the Notre Dame Design Studio, is not in and of itself, support of the results or product of the process. I don't know, I'm tongue-tied at 10 o'clock tonight.
Yeah, that's not good.
We do not intend by
We
this
support the
endorsement
community
to
conversation,
endorse
but not
the product.
necessarily the
Okay, we support the community,
conversation.
we support the public discussion of urban design, but not any,
But are not bound by its recommendations.
Well, the results of this report.
Yeah.
How can you do?
yeah.
Don't know what they're gonna be.
Can't be
How's that
bound by
different from
anything
what-
that hasn't been done yet.
That's the same thing as what it says here. We understand that it's not a report commission to help with future decision-making and set policy.
Okay, all right, I don't like the part about this whole, or illustrative of the sustainability.
So what if we
Start
got
with
That policy.
I like the way.
Policy period.
All right, policy period.
Policy period.
Still, any public, if we end on a very positive
Right.
note, any public discussion about urban design is extremely helpful to us numbnuts on the
You
planet.
wanna put extremely in there?
The still ought to come out. The still ought to come out. It
Oh.
sounds begrudging.
Yep, yep, any public, could we do that, can we strike still and just say, any public discussion about
Oh,
urban design
absolutely.
is extremely helpful.
Okay, good.
Okay, the planning board voted to support the Northampton Design Week / University of Notre Dame project. This studio is this project, I think. This project is an opportunity to raise public awareness about the importance of urban design and to help get the public, stakeholders, and decision makers to enter into conversation about design. Given that this project is first and foremost the University of ND student studio, we fully understand its primary purpose is to educate the students. We understand that this is not a report commission to help in future decision-making or to set policy. Any public discussion about urban design is extremely helpful.
We believe.
You can live with that?
Well, what I'm saying is that we actually took out the still, doesn't quite read right.
Well, you know what, it's all right, good enough.
However, we believe,
We'll
we
change it
support,
after you leave.
We
Okay.
firmly believe
how do you folks intend on using this
it's gonna be an event.
beautifully crafted support document?
Well, we want to be able to just say the planning
Yeah.
board is in support of our doing it, that's
Yeah.
all. We're, you know,
That's all.
Yep,
and counter whatever perception there is that you're against it.
right.
We support it. We don't endorse it.
What are we gonna say?
We're not against the week at all. We embrace, the engagement. We embrace.
All right,
the
well, thank you
process.
for your time and
Now we
consideration.
have, we gotta do this.